He got hurt
Okay.
in a hunting accident.
Oh, gosh. Bad hurt or little hurt?
Almost cut his thumb off. It's so that long.
Oh, yeah. He's incapacitated, I'm sure.
He was trying to use his crossbow.
Snapped.
Didn't have a load. Went to get up in the thing and it fired and cut his thumb off.
Cut it off.
Always have to hang my dread that wolf will throw back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he's got feeling.
Well, that's good.
Vacation?
Microphone's on.
Yep.
All right, it's 5:30 in Santa Claus. We will, like, rise to pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, call the roll.
Michael Johannes,
Here.
Kevin Burke,
Here.
Trish Wall,
Here.
Seth Wendell,
Here.
Jason Little.
Here.
We have all members present. The first, next item is the meeting minutes from August 9th, 2021. I think it was a special meeting and the regular meeting minutes of September 30th.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for August 9th, 2021, the regular meeting.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes approved. All right, September 13th.
I make a motion that we approve the September 13th minutes.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next item is comments from the floor. Benita is here to present health update, health insurance update.
Does everyone have a copy of what was sent out?
Please.
Does everyone have a copy of what was sent out?
Yeah, they all should have.
Yeah.
Russ, would you like a copy as well?
I have a copy.
You have a copy? Okay. I'm Benita Grosvenor. I'm with Business and Insurance Solutions. And I briefly wanted to address the healthcare insurance renewal. We did receive our rates from United Healthcare, and there is an increase that is scheduled. It is 12%. And I wanted to do a little research, so I actually approached several of our carriers, of course, and I immediately shopped the health insurance comparable plans to what we currently have in place. And I looked at SIHO, which is Southern Indiana Health Organization, Anthem, and IPEP Anthem Association. You might recall in July, when we were looking at potentially doing family plans, I brought in rates from an association, which operates kind of like a pool. And one of the things that I looked into with each of the carriers was across the board what they were looking at as their trend for increase. And United Healthcare and Anthem were pretty comparable. They are national carriers, and they range from 10 to 12% this year. Southern Indiana Health Organization, or SIHO, is more of a regional health insurance carrier that's located out of Columbus. And they are staying within the 8 to 10%, and that would be for the last 2 years. I also asked what they felt that would indicate for next year, just to have an idea of what we'd be looking at, and no one's touching that at this point. There are several things that are driving rate increases. It is not specific to just our group. It is across the board for the nation as a whole, and of course COVID. And long-term COVID effects are affecting that, as well as legislation, as well as the increase in medical care itself, which has increased 6.5%. you have the rates in front of you. Did you have any immediate questions on the increase and what that is indicative of?
So their increase last year was 11 something, right?
Yeah, it was 11.3.
So we're gonna have a 22 or 23% increase over a 2-year period.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
when we're looking at United Healthcare, which is where we are currently at, I did list the current with the renewal. We're looking currently at a $1,200 deductible with an out-of-pocket maximum of $7,500, a coinsurance of 80/20, and a prescription plan that starts with the tiers, generic, a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, ranging from $5 to $285. Office co-pays have been $30 and $60 for specialists. The renewal is offering the same coverage. However, the prescription plan has changed. That is $10, $40, $125, and $300 for the highest tier. Southern Indiana Health Organization, as far as rate and premium on a monthly basis, is slightly lower. But it needs to be notated that they have a difference in how their networks operate. United Healthcare and Anthem have the largest networks in network because they are national. Southern Indiana Health Organization actually operates with a 3-tier network. They have a direct contract with Deaconess and Encore. So that means Deaconess Hospital, Deaconess affiliates, and physicians will be covered at the tier 1 level and subject to a $1,000 deductible. The tier 2 level would be St. Vincent, Perry County Memorial. Deaconess has entered into a contract with Memorial, so they would also be covered under a tier 1, but Perry County Memorial is tier 2, as is St. Vincent and Owensboro Health. Tier 3 is the out-of-network. When we're thinking out-of-network, we're thinking a little bit larger scale as far as Mayo Clinic and St. Louis, etc. Those that have Deaconess direct contracts, such as IU and Vanderbilt, would be covered under tier 1. So it's a slightly less deductible as long as everyone is staying within the tier 1 network, meaning the Deaconess Memorial network. Are there any questions on that? Because it's a little bit different than what we have been used to seeing with Anthem and with United Healthcare.
Do you have 2 out-of-pocket maxes? So if you went to tier 1, you could have a 65, and tier 2, so you'd have 15,000?
That is correct. And of course, it affects the co-insurance and how things are paid. So for instance, if you saw a tier 2 physician and were referred to a tier 2 hospital for a procedure, you would have a $2,000 deductible, subject to a 70-30% co-insurance, meaning you would be responsible for 30% out of pocket, with an out-of-pocket maximum of $8,700. The prescription plan is the $10, $30, $60. It's a very basic prescription plan with a $30 copay for office visits and $60 for specialists. ICAP Anthem Association, again, who we looked at in July for the family coverages, took an 18.7% increase just this last year. They're slightly different as well because they operate as an association. Therefore, they are subject to medical underwriting, and each group has their own rates as far as their claims experience goes. Anthem, as a whole, I find it interesting because usually in the past, there's a little bit wider gap in premium between Anthem And again, they have taken a 10 to 12% increase over the last 2 years as well. However, this year, although slightly more, it is a little bit more reasonable than it has been in the past. I did call Cigna as well as Aetna, but they are more focused on the partially funded and fully funded plans. So they do not offer a fully insured plan comparable to what we have here. Are there any questions as far as the coverages, what we would like to see?
So with what we presently have, 1,200 is just flat 1,200. Does not matter where you go or who you see. Do we have out of
It
network?
applies to the in-network. Out-of-network, we do not have, but then again, United Healthcare,
Is
again,
broad.
is a broad network. I'm not sure that we've had any problems with finding a provider
In
within that
place.
network currently.
Okay.
What would a ballpark number deductible be, or even a guess, if you had to go out of network under United Healthcare?
50%. In other words, you would be responsible for, I mean, as far as having the deductible itself, you would be responsible for a 50% cover insurance.
And no max out of pocket, then out of network with United.
As far as listing out of network, our current plan, we do not have coverage for out of network. If we wanted to look at that as well, we could. However, because of the usage that we currently have with the physicians that everyone's using, they're in network.
So is everything in Southern Indiana in network with United Healthcare? And St. Vincent's, everybody mentioned with the other.
All of the major hospitals are
The major
all in.
hospitals, the major
Okay.
hospitals, physicians can, and it changes all the time, the frequency. But as far as the major hospitals, it covers St. Vincent's, Owensboro, Perry County, Memorial, Deaconess as well. So it's not limiting, and I don't want to say that SIHO is limiting, it's just they have very specific tiers that they apply to each facility.
Russ, if you were looking from the employees about.
I have now got a couple of supervisors here tonight with us who may have some input on any concerns or,
Anyone have comments they want to make about our current insurance service, response time, any of that stuff?
With the current plan that we have now, I have no complaints with it whatsoever, but this SIHO, when we're talking about this tier 1 and tier 2, that can get a little,
It can. One of the things that is usually asked is if we have an ongoing treatment and we switch plans, what would happen if that person falls into the tier 2 with their physician and their current care that's being provided. And with SIHO, as long as it's submitted by the physician within 30 days of effectiveness, which would be January 1, it would be recognized as tier 1, no matter who you're seeing, who your attending physician or facility is. So there is a 30-day window that would be slipped back in, but it's not grandfathered. So further down the line, if you were to need additional coverage or another physician and maybe came out of network, then it would be subject to that tier 2. Were there any other questions?
I guess, what would the premium increase look like if we went to like a higher deductible?
Depending on what you want to look at.
Like Anthony was at 1,500, what would the you have a UHC at 1,500?
UHC at 1,500, the premium would go to, and I actually did already look at that, the premium would go to $15,872.85.
15 what?
$15,872.85. And that's just the deductible changing, not the co-insurance, Now the out-of-pocket
So no
maximum,
change. $100. And you were looking at.
So it looks like it's a roll of the dice when you start dealing with different tiers as far as the,
and we did, once upon a time, Russ, you might recall, we had SIHO, many years ago, but it didn't have these different tiers. So it is a big, it is a roll of the dice, as you say.
yeah.
And UHC is only, what, 200, and not even $50 difference. With the increase.
Correct.
But the prescription plan's a lot better.
The prescription plan is better.
Yeah, a lot better. I mean, no $300 drugs on that one. 60's your max. So,
One here, you have a $400 deductible.
on Anthem.
We, to make a decision like this, the tiered drugs, is there any way to, like, isolate what type of drugs those are in the upper tiers? Do they have a listing of what drugs are for what?
The directory is probably about
That's what I
that
thought.
big. It's very big, but to kind of give you an idea, when we start going into those much higher tiers, we're looking at drugs that are for cancer.
That's what I was gonna say, the higher.
The higher, the cancer, sometimes infertility. The generic and the brand names are going to be covered under those first two tiers. And for the most part, just glancing at the usage and knowing, of course, medical within the group, most everybody is paying under that first or second tier currently with United Healthcare. And the one thing to know, whenever we are looking at these plans, each carrier has their own design. So trying to find a carrier that has a $1,200 deductible and to a $1,000 deductible, it's very difficult to find exact matching apples to apples plans. So when I'm reviewing for a cost base, I'm looking for the most comparable plan to what we currently have. Because that tells me then and there what the rest of that policy plan is going to be for each carrier and how it's going to vary.
And when do we make a decision on this?
Ideally, we would like to have something in place. Open enrollment is being tentatively scheduled with American Fidelity, as well as with our groups on the 15th of December. Which, as a side note, our dental has no increase, so that's the good news. And vision, which is, of course, contingent upon which medical carrier we look at, as well as life insurance, but they are as far as premium-wise, those are the least amounts on the overall cost.
So essentially, the last 2 years, our share has gone up about $33,000 a year, with just the town's part.
I would have to run the numbers on that. Did you say 33,000?
Yeah.
Our monthly premium went up $1,600 this year on our portion. That's $17,000 just for this year.
And last year was roughly
16,000.
about 15, yeah. Which I think is always reflective of the national trend.
We have a meeting next Monday night to look at the liability insurance, we can.
Got like 2 weeks now.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So we can,
Okay.
everybody can study this.
Is there anything that you would like to see between here and there that I can provide for you?
What would you recommend?
What would I recommend?
And,
Stay with the same?
and I would like to throw the question out further than that, which would be better for the town and the town employees?
That's a tough question, and I'll answer it this way. If we're just looking at the bottom line figure, of course, the SIHO is the lesser rate. Not by a large portion, by any means. But we haven't had any complaints with United Healthcare as a whole. And I feel like everyone is definitely within network, that's not a question. I think it's if we were to switch now and look at SIHO, coming back into United Healthcare in a year or two, we would be a new group. And that could affect the rates overall, coming back as a new group. However, that is a tough question on that one. I think ultimately, as an employee, I would look at wanting to stay, but the town also has to make a decision on economics. I think the question is actually what it boils down to is there enough savings to switch a carrier? When potentially employees might have more cost share, looking at a different plan. However, with enough forewarning, most everything you're covering now could be covered under the Tier 1 under SIHO. But I think ultimately that's probably what the question is going to be.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. You finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this trend that we're seeing with the increases, is that gonna be a long-term trend, do you think?
We are seeing such a fallout from COVID and long-term COVID effects. I think it's very hard for anyone to predict what the next several years are going to be. Do I personally think there's going to be a steady climb as far as, yes, because medical care is going up. Therefore, your insurance premiums will be reflective of that, as well as the cost of expenses being incurred. I will say this, the Affordable Care Act has helped to curb what increases are, because it's spreading the risk geographically. Whereas prior to the Affordable Care Act, as I'm sure you might recall, there were times we took a 22% increase. So when we're looking at 12%, we're still below what LBL Group has stated is the national average of 12.63. So our region is below that. But we're seeing increased usage in the Midwest, and that's because of the Delta variant and several other, again, long-term effects that have created health issues.
Yeah, so I do know that one of the main concern or major concern of employees is the cost share. So again, if we see the steady increase, I know with fuel prices going up, food prices, et cetera, that's going to put a lot of thought in an employee's mind about how I pay for this or that. So the cost share also by the employees concerns me as well.
Maybe not for this year, but for next year, what we might consider looking at is a difference in deductible, because that's a known increase of what each employee would have to pick up for cost share. And this is just me speaking as someone who has to carry health insurance. I would rather know exactly what I have to pay in any certain circumstance under medical than to have an out-of-pocket maximum increase, for instance. So that might be something to look at, and maybe council would like to see some alternative deductibles laid out in front of you that I could provide for you over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, just the real problem for us is when our budget goes up 3% or 4% a year, and one piece is going up 12, 12 and a half, 20, that snowballs against the rest of the budget if we don't do something about it. All of a sudden, it becomes a real problem, like when we didn't raise sewer rates forever, and we had to jump sewer rates by 30% or whatever that needed. You know, so for us, if we're not proactive, then all of a sudden we could be, I think we're gonna have to get the employees with a big chunk of it, of the premium down the road, so I'd like to be proactive and try to prevent that from happening.
I'm also concerned about switching carriers based on the comment you made earlier about when we go to re-enroll with United Healthcare. I basically start you from square one again, and they look at everything again, and I think that's another big gamble.
$100 a month, find out we're switching everybody.
So even if we go to, SIHO, or whatever you're calling it, that's still a 9% increase from what we are.
I just think the side hose is too much of a gamble.
I do too.
I mean, that's a bankrupt right there.
If it was $1,000 a month, it'd be one thing, but
It is a solid company. There were several years, at one point, we were with SIHO as this group. But they did, after the Affordable Care Act, they dropped writing all of the fully insured or PPO plans, like what we have in place. And they wrote only self-funded plans. The fully insured plans were picked up 4 years ago. So I don't want to say it's new to them, because it's not. They've done it. But they've only done the fully insured portion now for 4 years again. So I mean, I have to do my due diligence and show you the bottom line figures. And to show you that I do, as an agent, shop and look for difference in rates and coverages and anything that might be out there that we could look at. Which was IPEP Association, but their rate increase is astronomical, so I am not recommending we look at them in any way, shape, or form this year. But again, it goes back to, the question is going to be, overall, is it going to be worth switching carriers to save $252, something like that, when the employees might have a bigger cost share portion themselves. So what I can do for you before the next meeting, I can provide a list of other deductibles with United Healthcare for you to take a look at. Did you want to see those with SIHO as well?
I guess you might as well if we're doing our due diligence.
Okay, then that's what I'll provide for you, and I'll try to get those via email to you prior to the meeting, so that you have a little bit of time to look it over, and that way, put your questions together, and Russ, I'll include you and any other department heads that might want to be included in that as well. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I have one, you can stand with me, I can do with you. How many people in this room know what the federal law and the states have done to health insurance? Most people do not know this. This is not Democrat or Republican, it's all administrations. There is a federal law that forbids people from one state to buy insurance from another state. It's totally wrong. It's what it does is you go to Indiana or wherever you're going to, there's about 3 large medical carriers that you get your insurance from them, or you don't get it from anybody. I can't go to New York and buy insurance, or any place else in this country. I can only buy, and you can only buy insurance from the providers in your state, which is a bunch of bull. It should never be that way, and I have talked to many politicians about it, even someone at the national level. Vice President Pence, before he was vice president, when his governor was over here, I nailed him on it. He said, oh yeah, it's something Congress ought to look at, and both groups, Republican or Democrat, just blow right by it. What happened when they deregulated the airlines, the prices went down, more carriers, telephone, you can get a telephone any place, but the health insurance industry still has this law on the books in Washington DC, and the states just follow right along with it, so we're all getting it. And until that changes, this type of stuff's gonna continue to go. So
And we
if you
do-
talk to your congressman or your senator, bring this point up, because it affects everybody.
It does, and I check every year to see if some of the, I don't want to say lesser players, but the less utilized, like Aetna and Cigna, if they've opened up their doors yet on these smaller group plans, because larger groups have a much better negotiation power, that they can cafeteria their plans, so therefore they can control their rates a little bit better. But smaller groups were subject, and it's not just by state, it's by region.
Yeah, the federal law is by state, that you cannot buy.
It
You
is,
cannot
but
go outside of the state.
as far as the lock per these, and it's the big three, as long as
Yeah.
that lock, it's almost per region at this
Yeah.
point. When Affordable Care came Act, we debated as agents. I said Humana East Coast, United Healthcare Midwest, maybe Anthem overlapping and going on out onto the
Well, I
East
mean, they
Coast.
have Blue Cross Blue Shield in every state, and
Yeah.
they're supposedly not tied together, but, you know.
Oh, yes, they are.
I understand. All right, anybody else have comments? All right, we'll move on to comments from the president. First item on here is an update on Dale Riverview concerning MOU. Basically, nothing has happened. I talked to Roland Ott 2 weeks ago. He called me, hadn't heard from him, and he said that their attorney is reviewing the MOU that we sent. He didn't have any timeline, I didn't ask him any other questions. As far as I'm concerned, it's in their ballpark, they want to do something, they get back to us, they haven't really. And I talked to Dale, and because they're playing a little game where Dale's waiting on Riverview and Riverview's waiting on Dale. I don't know what that dynamic is, but it doesn't involve us, so basically, I would say nothing's happening at this point, so.
So my question would be, can we not include Kevin on any of that anymore so that we can stop paying out of pocket for it? Stop having Kevin do stuff for this and stop having him talk to
He's
him?
not doing anything now.
Right, but last meeting, he said he's got $8,000 or $10,000 worth of bills from this for us, right? And he
That's
would
what
use
he-
that, he would put that in there eventually, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I mean,
think, since
we're-
nothing's gonna happen, I think nothing's ever gonna happen, we should stop having Kevin talk to anybody about this, because all it's doing is
Right.
costing us money.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been talking to anybody since then.
Right, I'm saying, we
Yeah,
shouldn't
no
until there's
problem,
more votes
yeah.
on him being involved again, so that we
Right.
can save money.
All right, I agree, we're not doing anything until we see what they're.
All I see is we're gonna get a big bill from Kevin, and nothing's ever gonna happen.
So would that be like October 11th, then by that time, would we say that if any bills show up from Kevin from October
I will-
11th, then it should be
I
null
will
and void?
tell him not to make any more phone calls if he has, I don't believe that he has been, but
Okay,
I have to talk to him, so October 11th, okay.
because that's our last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, just a quick question. Have there been any input by state legislators or county?
I talked to Stephen Bartels one day, he called me and asked me what was going on, I said, nothing, we're not. And then a couple of days later, Roland called me, and just told me that their attorney was looking at it, marking it up, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Can you state your name, Matt, so we
Oh,
have it
sorry.
on record?
Mary Hess.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Thank you.
sorry. All right, we'll move on to an update on Old Highway 245, and it's probably 10 minutes before I came in this meeting, you did not call me, so. You have in the packet 2 cost estimates, one from J.H. Rudolph and one from Raggle, that Russ asked them to give to us for evening out the road intersection, making it, be the way we want it to be, so it's safe, and you don't have the bounces and all that stuff. One of them came to $238,970, the other one came to $300,000. The state, in their initial offer, offered us $200,000. I told him when he called me today, Rusty Fowler, who's the deputy commissioner of the state NDOT and head of the Vincennes region, that we were going to discuss this tonight. But I don't think that we should even consider taking that intersection of those roads over unless they're willing to pay whatever our
Yeah.
least quote is, which would be, in this case, if we haven't formally sent them out, so it would be $240,000.
But this isn't a quote, this is an estimate.
Yeah.
So you get a real bid, come in 300,000, this says to be used for budget purposes only, so you don't want to enter into a contract and we do this and they come back, oh, whoops, it was 300,000.
I said that they would pay the lowest bid that we got.
Oh, bid, okay.
Yeah,
So that's not what I will communicate,
Okay.
if everybody's okay with that.
yes.
Then-
Yeah,
So,
Mike, what's the possibility of them bringing that road back out to the highway?
I don't believe there's any possibility of that.
probably the most.
Just make a loop?
I can ask them, but I don't think I think that it was a safety issue.
Yeah.
I think
It was.
that's
Less
what-
people get on.
There were accidents.
Yeah. So, and then the other part of this, which Russell and I have talked about, is that, if we do this, we have to involve the county in that, because the way the road is structured right now is a total mess. From the gate at Christmas Lake going east, the south side of that road belongs to the county, the north side belongs to the town of Santa Claus, all the way out to where that fence line is behind the Mount Zion Church. And then both sides of the road goes back to the county until it gets to the old intersection. Then that is still under the state's jurisdiction. So we would have to get the county to agree to let us take over both sides of that road, at least from the gate out to New 245, which would then, that would become part of our road inventory, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that has to be worked into this agreement too, but there's no use going to the county until we get something worked out with the state, basically. And then, so that's where we're at, but that's what I will talk to them tomorrow about, is that they would pay for whatever the lowest bid is.
Okay.
No, well, we have had an interlocal agreement that we maintain that road with the county right now. Maybe the interlocal agreement's ended,
It has expired, yeah.
but we've been doing it for years.
And I had it on my slate to talk with the highway superintendent of the county about these topics. I may just broach it, but not go into details for what we're looking at.
Okay, yeah. So next time you meet with him, I'd like to be in on the conversation. Okay, does anybody else have questions about this? All right, it's not in the packet, there's a proclamation for Small Business Day, which is Saturday, the 27th of November. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's always done by the American Express. When they promote using your American Express card in local businesses, and they want us to do a proclamation encouraging people to spend their money in Santa Claus. And I thought it would be in the packet, but it's not. But it's a standard form, so we have a motion to approve putting it.
I make a motion that the town of Santa Claus supports Small Business Association Day.
Second.
We have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is parades. The Rockport Christmas parade will be December 4th at 2 p.m. We always work with the city of town, Rockport, the city of Rockport, to make sure that our parades are on different days. Ours will be, as it always is, the second Saturday in December, which is December 11th. It'll start at 1 p.m. It will start in the Holiday World South Lot or Legend Lot. However, this year there will be a new route to extend it a little bit. We will not go through the shopping center anymore. The route will start at 162 and 245, the intersection in front of the Legion, as it has for many years. Come up to Town Hall. It will not turn in front of, go in the shopping center. It will go straight down by the Catholic Church to Patricia Cook Boulevard,
By the fire
down
station.
Patricia Cook Boulevard to 162, and then back up the way it always has.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, I don't know, a third of a mile, something like that, longer than it has been in the past. But we are, last year, we didn't have a parade because of the pandemic, but we had activities going on in the shopping center, and the congestion was just too much. We can't put them both back in there, so we're going to, try to get people to park in the Catholic Church parking lot, which I believe Mrs. Cook has talked to the church, I'm not sure. And then in the community center, and at, the hotel, Santa's Lodge, we're gonna put signs out that there is parade parking in those locations, so that we've got people do it. We cannot let people park along
Patricia Cook, though.
Patricia Cook Drive. We're gonna have to close that off so that people can't get down it. But it should make it a lot safer parade route too. We've been fortunate that since 1994, we've only had one incident where little kids run out in front of parade vehicles and get hurt. So we think this will make it a lot safer, not going through that congestion that's in the shopping center. So the other thing is, most of you remember that last year, when we didn't have the parade, we had fireworks, and the town was just inundated with probably 25,000 to 30,000 people, many of whom never got into town. I mean, we had traffic backed up to the interstate one way, to Gingerville the other way. So we moved that fireworks back to the 4th, and it won't start until 8:30. The other thing that happened, it started at 6 last year. Last year. The other thing, the Festival of Lights is not going on that night. The Festival of Lights is the 11th and the 18th. They're not having the Festival of Lights on the 4th, so that'll cut down on some of the traffic and congestion that we had before. So we are working with the police department on both of these events and the fire department to handle traffic and parking. The other thing with the fireworks last year, because of the pandemic, the state board, or the county board of health asked us to park cars at every other parking space in the Holiday World parking lot, leave a space between them so you'd have a 6-foot separation, and that took a lot of extra work to try to do that, and it held up the process getting cars. This year we don't have to put up with that, we can just run them in, so the fire department should have a lot better chance of getting people in there and getting them off the roads. So, anybody have any questions?
Time that started.
At 8:30. 8:30 for fireworks on the 4th, and 1 p.m. for the parade on the 11th. All right, the next thing is, I was coming in a little later than I was normally, and saw the Christmas lights up, and I wanted to give a big hand to the workers. I saw you guys out putting the lights up. They look really great, the Christmas lights. Also to the fire department for putting the banners, new banners up. They're looking good. The next thing is the East Side Trail. I don't know how many of you have been around on 162, going and making great progress on that. And I think they'll start across the road. The next part of it will be along 162, which will probably start right after the new year. Right? Russ?
Yeah, they've got a nomination to Holiday World not to begin tunnel construction. Well, after today, they can start on the tunnel. I think they're going to start doing some way out work for that.
Okay.
They start doing some minor excavation to accompany it.
Where's the tunnel?
The underpass at the water tower.
You know, where the people from the South Park line go underneath,
Okay.
that has to be extended out. But-
One section of
Yeah,
about
one
10 feet.
section, like 11
So
feet.
that tunnel, we're not making a new tunnel.
No.
No, we're just extending it out. All right, and then somebody mentioned this earlier. I everybody's going buying gas, and you can see how much the gas is up. How are we doing on your gas budgets, Russ, and fire department, police department, for the rest of the year?
We're okay, obviously, we've seen a noticeable increase, but,
Yeah.
but we're okay in our budget.
I think we're okay on our budget. By looking at it the other day, I think it's gonna be close, but I think we'll be all right. We'll just kind of, maybe not, we're still doing patrol, trying to get out there so people can see us and prevent things, but, maybe not as much driving, maybe a little more setting.
So
But
when
as
we,
of right now, our budget's fine.
all right, so when we set the budgets for 2022, you know, gas,
I adjusted for that.
did you?
Well, yes and no. Yes, I didn't know it was gonna increase this fast, but I think we'll be fine.
Okay. So,
Yeah, and I will absolutely have to accommodate in that wastewater budgets and water budget.
okay. All right, any council members have anything? All right, we'll move on to, fire department.
You've got my monthly report for October. We had 14 first responder runs, 1 fire, 1 carbon monoxide run, 1 fuel spill, and 1 truck in the lake. Total of 18 runs.
That truck in a pond,
Yep.
With nobody in it.
With no fire.
so you
Good.
pulled it out?
Huh?
You guys had to pull it out?
We didn't put it out.
The amazing thing was it crossed 245 to get to that point.
Yeah, they rolled across the highway. We didn't have to do this.
But it was not occupied,
Just south of.
Another one in.
good.
And it went in bed first. Motor didn't get one.
Substation.
That's all I got. Our pump passed fine. We did pump testing on the 27th of October. Everything was good.
Right. All right, and you guys are gonna help in the parking lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Parks and Rec.
So you've got my monthly report. We'll start with the community center. Memberships were down just a touch on our active members, but we picked up a few new members as well. Daily admissions did go back up just a touch, and we did have a daily rental. There was a baby shower, and then the volleyball team rented for 2 hours for their sectional dinners. Been a busy month. Touch a Truck and Trick or Treat Trail went very well. Touch a Truck, we estimated 300 people, and Trick or Treat last weekend, 950. So the food trucks were a huge hit. People were disappointed that the inflatables weren't there, but with the weather, it worked out anyway.
There were a lot of people there. I went down about 10 o'clock.
I'd rather have a food truck than a door personally.
Well, we think the food trucks kind of helped out, getting some of the parents there and getting them to stay a little bit longer, so. We'll be reviewing, we'll review that at the park board meeting, and we'll continue to review that throughout the year and get a game plan together for next year. Wanted to extend a thank you to the fire department, police department, utilities, everybody pitched in to help us managing traffic and making sure that everything went really well. We did renovate the concession stand in Field 1 just to try to make it operate a little smoother, make some extra counter and shelf space. Completed the insurance inventory review for the year. Had a few changes there with the yard barn down at the park now. Concessions went really well in October. We only had 2 weekends and $2,009 in receipts, which was almost as much as the whole month of September. So the soccer tournament definitely helped bump that number up. The B&G Heating and Cooling has installed the mini split system in the kitchen at the community center, so now we have heat as well as AC, and much smaller footprint. The unit is a lot smaller than the old one. So, did send out an RFP for insulation project, and those bids were received today.
Yes.
And I can continue my report, or you guys can do that right now. It's up to you, however you want to do it. But, so, did have Freeman Athletic Fields come down and survey all diamonds just to get an idea of the layout around the fields, what water's coming into the fields, where can we take it, how much work is that going to take to prepare for next year, to renovate the ball fields. I'm getting with Drew this week to figure out a time to schedule when we're going to install the no parking signs, and a few other things as well, taking out some posts and filling some holes and that sort of thing. As Mike spoke about the East Side Trail project, as far as I know, they've got all the borrow out that they've needed up to this point. They've submitted a change order to the state, I guess, to use some more dirt potentially in this next phase. And so it's still open. We're kind of waiting to hear back what they're going to do there. They'll obviously seed it down either way, but we're kind of hopeful that they can get it pushed back shut and get the parking in. So, at the redevelopment meeting a few months back, the geotextile for the parking lot was approved. That was just a quote, because it was under $5,000, and then the rock bid was approved as well. I called Southern Indiana Supply, and they did see a $150 price increase in the geotextile. So I went ahead and just paid the extra $150 out of our budget. And then the rock, we'll just kind of have to see what happens there. We might have to rebid that next year. I don't know yet. So, and then as far as Kimball's concerned, with their donation to the community center, the park board, after some discussion with Kimball, it seems like they're okay with just doing the naming rights for 5 years and not worrying. It's such an insignificant amount, they thought that it would be worth messing with. So we'll continue to work on that. And the only other thing I have is the bids for the installation.
How many requests did you send out?
So I sent 3 out to Insulpro out of Evansville, Superior Insulators. They have office in Jasper, Hamburg, I think, and then
Polytech Solutions.
Yeah, out of Jasper.
And we only got 2 of them to respond.
Yes, well, Insulpro called me today. The previous rep that had quoted last time was no longer with them, and they didn't feel comfortable with all the volatility in pricing, and not having looked at them themselves, to submit a bid, so.
Okay. So we're gonna open the bids. The first one is from Polytech Solutions. It was received on November 8th, 2021. It's in a sealed envelope. Okay, the amount on this bid is $28,321.10. $28,321.10. The second one received also on November 8th in a sealed envelope from Superior Insulators. The total price on this one is $25,003. 25003. So,
What was your estimate, your budget for it?
So the initial, last year, whenever we had quoted it, was around 20,000. Pricing's obviously gone up pretty substantially. Basically, the only insulation in that building that is in really good shape is above the largest room. Everything else, in the past, they tried to attempt to use spray foam on the duct board, on some of the walls, the interior walls. Didn't do a very good job of it. And the foyer, and then the other areas of the building, the bat is falling through into the drop ceiling. Whenever we've done renovations, it's just falling on the floor. So I know it seems like a lot, but I truly believe out of the 12,000 or so that we have budgeted for electricity and natural gas, that we can probably recoup 25% of that a year. I think this would pay for itself in 10 years very easily.
okay, where is this money budgeted from now?
So whenever we had met to discuss at the budget meetings, and I followed up with Kelly, she had mentioned that you all had appropriated earmarked the 60,000 in the community cap building for that purpose, that and then the kitchen, and then the flooring in the living room as well.
And one of these bids accepted, when is this work going to be done?
So it would be hopefully by the first part of December. We would have to give them notice, obviously, but both of them seem like they would have availability in their schedules.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the bid from Superior Insulators at $25,003. assuming they both meet specs.
Right, so it has the specs listed right there, so we'll let us see. Zach?
Pending
Yeah, I'll
paperwork,
second
I
it.
guess, I'm not sure if they submitted.
Yeah, pending paperwork.
Yeah. All right, we have a first and
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll let, make sure that she gets copies of these. Okay. And then you can make sure the clerk treasurer has copies. Okay.
I can, how do you want to do that? Do you want to just, I can get copies from you
Yeah.
tomorrow? Okay. Thank you all very much. I'll give you
All right. Building inspector, Todd, have anything? Here's his report.
He's on
He said,
vacation.
yeah, he said he wasn't coming.
Okay.
Every time I drive out of the village, I see a new house going up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they really fit in the house right there?
Police department.
Believe everybody has a monthly report. Is there any questions on that? It's still staying pretty busy. I think it's going to slow down quite a bit now that holiday road's closed and Rudolph's closed. So on the Officer Academy, Ryan Riegelbauer, I've been working back and forth with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. If he had 5 years on full-time, they said that they could work with him as far as not having to go back to the academy. Unfortunately, he does not. But I did make a phone call to a friend of mine, the chief over at Evansville, and I was able to get him in the academy effective January. So we can get him in, he'll be out by April.
And at the academy in Evansville, they do not stay overnight, right?
Correct, he'll be home every night, it's gonna save us money. He'll be
Right.
home every night, you won't have to drive all the way to Indianapolis, and then it's home on the weekend.
Great.
So, they're supposed to be giving me his reporting date, but they said he's in their academy for January already, so, unfortunate for him. Because I know he doesn't want to have to go back again. It's 15 to 17 weeks, depending on what they have going on. She had listed on here police vehicles. I've taken bids on those. I put it out to 4 different places, and Sternberg's and Town and Country Club are the only ones that responded. I thought we were gonna have them tonight, but she's not here, so I spoke with both places. These are government bid vehicles. And they said if we do not order them by December the 11th, they said one of 2 things is gonna happen, either the price is gonna go down or up. And they said you can probably look towards the future.
Or they just won't have them.
Or they just won't have them. Good thing is Kelly and I talked about it, I believe she's talking to State Board of Accounts. Similar to what we did before, we can, as long as we order them before the end of the year, they can lock that price in. As long as we order them, we don't have to pay for them, and obviously we won't take possession of them. The chances of them being here the first of the year is probably slim them anyway, they're probably looking at like March. But anyways, if we could table that until the 22nd, I think this is the next meeting,
Okay.
and then we should have those. And that's really all I have.
You met with Ashley last week, right?
Correct, I did, yes.
Okay.
She showed me the route. We'll have plenty of officers to drive traffic.
Okay.
So yeah, we should be good.
And the letter for get the letter for
Yes, I wrote a
NDOT?
letter to NDOT, and I gave it to her
Yeah.
on letterhead, so I'm assuming she turned that over to NDOT.
Okay.
So we should be good there.
Trails, Russ?
I did not give to the first treasurer any agenda items. I don't have anything that needs council discussion or approval, I don't believe so. Suffice it to say for trails and utilities, if there are any questions on reports or any other questions, I'd be happy to deal with them.
I have a question, something that we need to get, the park board involved with. This is really an item for next year, but we'll have to talk about it. is the east side trail is coming down and meeting Old State Road 162. It's stopping right there. And then we will have to do something with that road, which I think we can put on our road thing, and the rest of that road. We can't close that road because that house is back there. And also, the visitor bureau is going to be building their new visitor center.
And they confirm that?
Well, not a date, but I mean, that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
So
Maybe they were looking at other potential options.
So anyway, what we need is to figure out where we're going to tie into the existing trail in the park. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to run that down there and then not have someplace. So can you guys, I mean, it doesn't have to be immediately, but sometime we'll get together and try to lay out a plan of how to get the east side connector actually connected to the trail system in Yellick.
So that wasn't part of the plan?
It wasn't part of the original plan.
To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Russ, that Midwestern had given you a rough design basically showing potential routes, or a potential route, because we'd already discussed basically the trail that goes up the north side of the road, taking that out to Old State instead of where it is currently to make room for more fields, and then we could connect them.
Yeah, pulling it up.
Right.
How we do that, I don't know, but that was just a thought that we
Yeah, you're
discussed.
exactly right on how you laid that out. So I went out there and actually looked today. So east of the bridge and where the driveway to that existing house is back to the trail, I mean, that is unused road, so that could attempt to just be paved for trail. From the driveway on, you'd have probably a 21-foot width road, which could be designated as a bike or pedestrian path. I've seen that done before. The options of widening it to accommodate another 10-foot, I think are pretty slim. You got pretty deep ditches on each side.
I don't think with a amount of traffic on that road that you need.
That's what I was gonna bring up next. I mean, there's what, 2 cars on that a day right now, you know, at that. So I think if you just designated a portion of the, what would be, I guess, the eastbound lane as far as the pedestrian bicycle. Because any plans would call for those trails to be extended out to Ashburn. There's no other, I mean, unless you build a very expensive bridge to get across that ditch, which I know is popular, but just from an economic standpoint, it makes more sense to walk to Ashburn. That's where the majority of the park trails are now, I mean, coming up Ashburn and on the north side of the road. So a lot of options, but yeah, Zach and I can present the council with a plan.
Yeah.
On that field side of the road though, those aren't paved trails, are they? The one that goes up into the.
Not yet.
But basically the discussion, and that's why, and we were able to trim a little bit out, I think, of the cost of it, is I told Russ, in the future, I would like to take that trail out to Old State rather than where it comes back down.
Yes.
So we're only gonna pave up to basically
Like the other side.
the top of it and then wait for the rest.
But that means that trail has to cross that road too, Ashburn, right?
Yeah, like Russ is saying, you could meet them basically,
Yeah, I mean,
crosswalk in there.
The original design, when we were gonna hard surface both the north and south trail.
Right.
You would have had a pedestrian crossing across Ashburn anyway.
Uh-huh.
There's parking
There's
area.
already one there.
Yeah, there is.
There is a pedestrian crossing there, but it's from the, yeah, it's from the utility, on the opposite side of the utility shed.
And we're still waiting on the DNR,
Yeah, for that one lower paving, right?
right? The thing came in at 300 and some thousand,
Yeah.
we've got 186,000.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that to be.
Well, I'm waiting on the engineer to give me the revised project scope.
And that's for that lower woods you're talking about?
No, this is, we are only able to afford the north side of Ashburn,
Okay,
Where this trail was connected.
right.
where the trail.
Eventually. Yeah, we don't have the funds to do it right now.
Yeah.
So if you were to construct that tomorrow, again, you'd have to come out to Ashburn and just head west on Ashburn and connect up.
You have to go across the entrance to their parking lot.
Yes, that's correct.
And then.
Is there a sidewalk or anything there now?
No,
No.
the park board's discussed it on the south side of the road, putting a sidewalk the full length of the park, that way
Yeah.
it's safer, and
Right.
basically we would eliminate that parking when the rest of the parking is.
So, yeah, so now to make a physical connect, you'd have to go over to the east side of, or west side, I'm sorry.
So right now, that trail gets on to old 164. right?
162.
162, I'm sorry. and then it dead ends. So if I'm walking that trail to the park, I'm cutting across that parking lot by the
You have to,
utility shed.
the culvert on the, or the ditch on the one side is so deep, yeah.
Right, exactly. And then, so I'm going in front, like where the gravel is, right? And then where, there's no trail, the trail doesn't, there's no sidewalk in front of those fence rows, right?
No, basically, well, there is, but it's further down.
I know, it's
So
not in front of
basically,
that one
If you were at
field.
the intersection of Ashburn and Old 162, there is no sidewalk or anything. You would turn towards the park.
And just go on the grass
Past the maintenance
and
building.
then get to,
And then on the north side, there's a gravel with a bridge.
Right.
Gravel with a bridge. you
Right.
cross.
Yeah, it's not very far.
No.
Wherever we do it, it's not gonna be very far, but it needs to be done, we need to think about it.
I'm surprised that connector wasn't part of the plan, because that, you know,
Well, I think there were some things up in the air too, like with potential for a fire station at one time and some other things that you kind of had to like, what do we do?
So, anyway, we should be analyzing that for next year.
Yep, agreed.
All right,
Mike, can I raise a question when you're talking about trails? We got a couple of calls in the office this morning. It looks like it might have been intentional, but there's 14 of those dividers that got knocked down on Casper. I saw one on the road, probably was maybe it was intentional Saturday night, it looked like that when they got knocked down.
We know who did it, we're investigating.
All right, okay, I don't know if you got, we get the calls because they think that road belongs to the city all the way out.
Yeah.
And so just, if there's anything you've got that you want to replace those.
Oh, yeah, we keep spares on hand, if not, what we doing.
Okay.
Like I said, we're fully aware of who done it, they actually posted a video of themselves doing it.
oh, that was smart, oh, that was smart.
We're working on it, we haven't notified the buildings about it yet, but
Okay.
Oh,
we'll have information shortly to.
yeah, we need to recover the funds
Yes.
that it takes to put them back up.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you. All right, street department, Russ?
Again, same thing, just based on my report, the council have any questions?
I want to say that the entrance to your facility and the recycle center, that road looks great.
Thank
It's a long time coming.
It was a long time coming.
It looks really good.
I had intentions to do some other things, I was gonna whiten a little bit, but I got money and time, so. Do what we do.
It was, first day I went over there, it was quite noticeable. It had been radically improved. Wastewater,
Nothing other than what's on my report.
all right, water,
Same.
all right, industrial park, I don't think there's anything. Town attorney, I talked to Kevin today. The litigation on the golf course, after we filed an appeal with the appellate court, the appellate court gave them till November 15th to respond, and now they have asked the court to give them an extension for their response. I don't know what that extension is. That's the Ruth Rice house, and I don't know what's going on with the appraisal. So I guess we're ready to move on to clerk treasurer, unless somebody else has questions about any of that.
Nope.
All right, the bank balances for September are unreconciled.
All three of them are off. I mean, it's only like, I think the most is the sewer, it's off $89.
Yeah.
The others are much lower. I was out for 2 weeks, so
Okay.
haven't had the time to, because somebody keeps bringing me invoices.
Someday we'll get everything fixed. It'd be nice if one of our utilities.
I like to pick on you. Yeah.
All right, legislation to reduce personal property taxes by 30%, I don't think has any chance of going anywhere, but I'm not in the legislature, so just everybody kind of watching. And we need council approval for the safety and holiday bonuses per our ordinance.
And I make a motion to approve the safety and holiday bonus to be paid on 12/3.
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The donation letter, website for the trails are in the process. I saw the photographers were out 2 weeks ago taking photos of the trail and people walking on them. Okay, if we're going to use ARPA funds for GIS mapping, it has to be added to the ordinance. Kevin's not here, and Kelly's not here, I think we need to wait on that.
Well, Russ has something to do, doesn't he?
Yeah, as part of our asset management plans, GIS mapping is, I think, one of the minimum requirements for approval. So we can leverage our dollars with this ARP money to pay for the GIS.
Good.
Good.
So can we direct Kevin to update that ordinance? Do we need
Sure.
to go over that, or can we just tell him to do it?
No, we didn't tell them to do it, we have to vote on the ordinance.
Can we have him bring it to the 22nd?
Yeah.
Remember 22nd?
All right.
So I think it's time working.
I'll call him tomorrow. Does anyone else have anything else to bring before the council?
I want to say, Zach, that again, just this, I haven't been around much, but the last probably week or two, I've had massive compliments on our park. I'm talking, like, people come up to me, man, that park. So, just there again, I just want to say, it has been a big deal.
Yes, I appreciate all your support.
Since you're patting Zach on the back, the gym is awesome too.
Yeah, there we go.
We're getting it.
We got a pickleball on again there?
Yeah. My dad's a member now.
Good. All right,
So
we'll
let's
move
have
on
to
to
get doors now for pickleball.
vouchers. Kathy?
General is $173,896.74.
Make a motion to approve the general voucher in the amount of $173,896.74.
Second?
We have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And wastewater is,
Wastewater,
$163,963.59.
Make a motion to approve the wastewater voucher in the amount of $163,963.59.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next town council meeting will be November 22nd, which is 2 weeks from now, and at 5:30.
Good, that's
Yeah,
much
I
better. I have another meeting first.
Considering liability insurance now, also health insurance.
And the police car?
And the police car and the
And the
ordinance,
for our-
yes. Health insurance, police car, and ordinance. GIS.
Do we, real quick question,
Uh-huh.
so you need to know what, you need to know now, because I also have something else I'd like to bring up at the next meeting. We're, with the body cameras, we're struggling with the, keeping the videos. And I do have, so the company that we use, Axon, they sent me a quote where they can keep everything in the cloud. And I can bring that to you next week.
Yes,
If
please.
I've got a point there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, please.
How much is it?
Around 2,700 a year, but they take care of all the legal issues, everything. All we do is dock it and upload it to their cloud and takes care of everything. Save us a lot of heartache.
And the prosecutor also has access to that as well too.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So you don't
awesome.
have to drive down there.
No chain custody then?
No chain custody. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's good.
While we're on the subject, I plan to bring RFPs for flooring, or have RFPs or bids submitted for the flooring. The next meeting, I was kind of waiting to see what this was gonna look like with the installation before I got too carried away.
You want to do that at the 22nd or at the meeting in December?
Probably the 22nd would be better.
So
We can get back.
Kathy, are you getting all these items
Okay.
to be put on that agenda?
I'm adding them
What's
to
that?
that.
Or-
Once you
okay.
can get your quotes back.
Yeah, we only need 5, and I've been in contact
Okay.
as far as, the RFP is pretty much ready to go for both. Basically, we'll have for lack of a better term, like a garage door, it's a polyurea coated with flake in it for the kitchen in the gym side, or the large room side, and then the flooring for the weight room side, so, be 2 separate RFPs.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second.
Thank you. It's been tough. Thank you so much.
Do you know how to get out of this? Do you know how to get out of this? It's something about broadcast.
We can exit. Does that save itself? I don't know. Let's just save. And then we'll say, can you type in, I'm sorry, I'm way over you.
You're fine.
Meeting, what is today, 11/8? I don't know if you have to keep my mind. 11/8. That's what I would do, now save. Yeah, and then I go up to file again and close. Exit. Yep, that's what I would do. And say stream, just say yes, move and log out, because it's still active.